All right. Welcome to another episode of Panakal Podcast for Geeks, a show about good friends hanging out, talking about things we all love. No tongue twister that time.
You got it.
Um,
Yeah.
you have no idea how many times I screwed that up. Y'all know my co-host Andrew Sides, and our guest
Yep.
today is Regina Flath, who I just know you as an art director, and so we actually went and looked at your website the other day, and you've done a ton more. So I was just like, dang, you have a very
Yeah,
extensive portfolio.
hmm
It's cool.
I've worked on a lot of things over a lot of years.
Yes, I wish my website looked like that. Like mine's like, here's this
Actually,
thing,
I
here's
have to
this thing.
update it. I have new work that I haven't put up there yet.
I mean, those book covers are all those covers. I'm assuming that's all the covers you've worked on with other artists and such, right?
A lot of it's just a selection. It's a narrow slice of the covers that I've worked on because when I moved from young adult to adult sci-fi fantasy, I was
Hmm.
updating my portfolio so that it was like kind of angled more towards the adult sci-fi fantasy realm. So I've done so many things. I started in picture books actually.
Like
So
Oh, like
children's
it's
as
like
a
stories.
as an art director within picture books
as a
or an
designer,
illustrator. Okay.
That's cool.
I also illustrated a picture book, but a single one with an author through the American Psychology Association. It was a wonderful experience. Then I quickly learned that being an illustrator is an entire career, as is being a book designer. And I had just had my daughter. And so I was really just girl bossing way too close to the sun. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just going to focus on my job and taking care of my family. And I think illustration,
That's fair.
maybe one time in the future. But yeah,
So
I know
And maybe
plenty of
get some
people
free
who do
time.
it all, and I can't.
so were you I guess then you were a designer first before an illustrator?
That's like me.
Yes, actually,
Yeah.
was. I was an associate designer at Houghton Mifflin. That was my first job out of college. And I worked on picture books, middle grade, and very, very rarely young adult. And then I moved from Houghton to Bloomsbury Publishing, where I was doing all the formats as well in children's, but it was mostly middle grade and young adult. And then that quickly focused to almost exclusively young adult. And then I did my picture book and I had my daughter. Said, sorry, illustration. Other
You
more
found
talented
found
people
what you
do that.
enjoyed more, obviously.
I did. I did.
I mean,
Yes.
I was a graphic designer, UI UX developer for years, and I know that I try to do both. When I started doing the illustration side, it was kind of like I'm not a trained illustrator, I'm a graphic designer, but I was screwing around at work one day and I started coming up with this style, which initially was I discovered the cutout tool in Photoshop, the poster tool or whatever, and I thought, all right, this is one way
Right.
to do stuff. And then I would like Frankenstein things together, and it worked for a while. But there was a in my head, I was like, this is it's fun, but it's not anything, you know. And then I never even touched the lasso tool until I moved into Illustrator and started doing the pen tool in there. And I was like,
Oh my
okay,
gosh,
this
I'm
is taking another step, and it was
so bad at
crazy.
Illustrator.
I don't think I've ever met anyone who's like, I'm an expert at Illustrator.
Me.
You probably, yeah,
I'm the one.
yeah. Um,
The
and I
only
remember I
thing I'm
did,
not good at is that fucking gradient mesh tool. That
yeah, I
thing's a
remember trying to make an apple with that, and I was like,
so
how
I
are
had
people doing this?
way back in college, like I was never a designer first and foremost. I was a comic book artist first, and then eventually an illustrator and stuff. And I'm still an illustrator, but I use a lot of Adobe Illustrator within my day job and stuff. But I was dating someone in college that was a graphic designer, and I remember one of the assignments they had to do is like they had to make a photo real rendering of a product using the gradient mesh
Yep,
tool in
they'll
Illustrator.
drive
And
you
like the example they
bananas.
showed was like this like French horn that had like reflections upon reflections where it's like you kind of like how like when you photograph a really shiny like chrome object
Yes.
in
With
a
the
black room
volume
with
vectors. Yeah.
yeah. So there's all like there's
Different
like
light tones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's like several like studio light reflections in the object itself and stuff. Like, yeah, they gave that example. It's like, yeah, this is a rendering in Adobe Illustrator, and you have to recreate something like this. And I saw that in her book, and I was like, "Fuck this! What is this?"
I mean, I wasn't even using it at that level. I was literally just like, this is a good shape. Here's another good shape. But then I remember I was talking to, so I made my first batch of ancient ones that way, right? I did like 6, I believe. And then I was talking to Scott Fisher, who I admired his work because I played a lot of Magic when I was in my 20s. And I met him for the first time at Dragon Con. And he pulled me aside and was like, how are you doing this? He was a guest of honor there. So I'm telling him this process, and he's like, stop. He's like, that's straight. It's ridiculous that you're doing it that way because it's so much work. I'm like, I don't know any other way. And he's like, why aren't you using the lasso tool in Photoshop? And I'm just like, I don't know what the hell the lasso tool is. Like,
Yeah.
I've been using Photoshop at this point for almost 10, 15 years. I've never touched that tool, because I just use this straight for ads. Like, I would make posters on in Photoshop, right?
Sure.
Or ads. I never really had to do anything like that. So then I started mentoring under Scott. And I mean, I barely touch Illustrator right now unless I do like my book covers and stuff, right? But
Yeah.
even that, I sometimes I hire somebody to do it. People are always like, "You're a graphic designer. Why don't you just do your own stuff?" I'm like, I ain't got the time. Like, I got to keep making the art, you know. But yeah, Photoshop. Then I learn something new in Scott's class every single time I'm in it, right? So, but the lasso tool is just, and when people are like, "You did that with the lasso tool," I get the same reaction I got from people who are like, "You did that
From
with the pen
before.
tool."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, it's just a shape, man. And I've had people ask me why I don't use the cutout tool anymore, or why don't I use like some kind of like trace tools. But I'm like, the shapes never look right. And I've said this over and over to multiple artists. I'm like, there's a reason I like to get in there and make my own shapes, because it's hard to describe. It as an artist that's the shape. That's like, that's the brush stroke you want, but nobody else gives a fuck. They just want the
Yeah,
image,
because it's your medium. It's
right?
whatever tool you're comfortable in to be able to create the thing that you're after. If I can help it, I never use Illustrator. In fact, you would laugh at me. So I'll download all these stock illustrations if I'm designing something, if I'm designing it myself, or if I'm like putting something together for like direction for an illustrator. So I'll download all these EPS files and I just use Illustrator to open them. And then I take my outlines and I put them in InDesign and I do everything in there
Oh,
because
okay.
they
I
use InDesign for everything. And I know that Illustrator is super powerful and would be super helpful. And if I had like the time and emotional space and I
Yeah,
could like
I feel
focus
like
on
if I
it, I
could.
would love to take an
Ki-
Illustrator class, but I just
you,
do what I can
you know what
do.
my this is like a bugbear that I've said many a time to like my coworkers and like my art director and stuff is like, I hate how much like, okay, like it's insane to me, like Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign all have different weird things to them that
Yeah.
where it's like it's almost like it's like you're trying to learn like Italian, Spanish, and French at the same time, where it's like
Exactly
they
that.
yeah, they all have like the same proclivities, and then one of them goes, no, it's this way instead. We don't do that. We don't do it like that around here in this house. Like
Yeah,
I
like this.
think
I don't do that. You have to go to that program over there now.
like I if I remember, I think the default I've switched around my key sets between all three of those programs at this point because I was like, I ain't got time for this. I'm not dealing with your bullshit. I'm gonna set it to what I know in Photoshop, and that's that. But I think like deselect is the same in Illustrator and InDesign. It's the Control Shift A, but in Photoshop, it's just the Control D or Control Shift D, depending on what it is. And it's like, why do you have it that way? Why can't it just be the same?
They want to confuse you for some
Oh
dumbass
no.
reason. Um, I do feel like if I can bring what I've known in Photoshop now, and somehow figure out a way to bring it in Illustrator, I could punch up some of my colors. But then again, maybe
I
not
don't
for
think you
now.
need
No,
to
I
be
don't want to
honest.
touch Illustrator, man. That's more like it's not
Well,
even
like,
installed on my system because I only time I put it back here is if I need to like for example, when I design book 2 here, when I get the pages for it, if there's anything that needs to be open in InDesign, I'll download InDesign from the cloud
mhm.
and then I'll look at it and then I just delete it because I was like I don't use those programs.
Like
Photoshop
my
period.
art director designs like I think almost exclusively in Illustrator. She can help it, which is like the crap that she pulls out on there. I'm like, wow, like why'd you do it that way? But
It's
like
just like
I have a tendency where it's like I'll if it's very bold, big shapes, also if it's a lot of like style guide assets and stuff, it's like just Illustrator. It's gonna be easier to do it that way. Otherwise, like I'll sometimes make my assets in Illustrator and then import them into Photoshop to like use those as like masks and stuff for
are you using
different
Right.
Illustrator when you do the
things or
gnomes
whatever.
with me?
No,
Oh,
that's just Photoshop
I
hackery.
should explain that to Regina.
No.
So Dragon Con 2 years ago asked me if I would design a T-shirt for their 40 and over club, and I was just like,
Okay.
sure. So it's a big club at Dragon Con, and so I came up with an idea. They wanted something saying like a dragon stomping on a grass saying "Get off my lawn," because apparently 40 is
Okay.
old
Yeah.
for them.
Great. Love
And I
it.
said, it's weird that you want a dragon. What about a lawn gnome? I think it'd be cool. And they
Oh,
were like,
gnome is great.
so I don't have the shirts here. I quickly designed a shirt, and then I knew Andrew works in apparel and stuff. And I was like, my colors, there's too many colors here. I'm like, I can't make this work right.
Yes.
So he helped me punch it down a little bit and work the shapes over so it looked better. So we
Okay.
designed a shirt where he's stomping down saying, "Get off my lawn." And
Mhm.
then last year they invited me back. They actually invited me back this year too. They're like, "Can you design a shirt last year?" So they wanted an 80s vibe. So last year we did the same gnome basically,
An 80s
skateboarding.
gnome?
Yeah,
Yep.
he's skateboarding and he's like, I'll send you the images later to look at.
I
He's,
gotta see them.
He's got a
Also,
hoodie, I think, right?
he's got a
do
hoodie
you know
on.
the Gnomes book by Will Hugen? Hugen?
I don't think
I
so, but
It's
I'll
an
know
write it
that
down.
I know
it's a
the gnomes
gnomes
book.
picture book, and it has it's like a naturalist kind of. It looks like it would be.
So the one
Uh,
I know of is the Ren Portuliet book that's the one that David the Gnome is based off of. He was a
should I put this under?
Dutch
Oh,
yeah,
this.
Yeah. That's the guy.
This is the one.
yeah, that's the one.
That's who I picture in your gnomes. I know it's not going to
It
So
look
my
like
looks
it.
it
gnomes
looks a
look
lot like
my
him.
it
Does
looks like
it?
that. Yeah. He's got the beard,
That's
the cone head.
tremendous.
I actually looked at a
Love
lot of.
it.
I really like the gnomes from Gravity Falls. If you ever watched that. Uh,
I know of it. My neighbor's really into it, but I haven't gotten
oh
a
my
chance
god,
to
it's
check it
such a
out.
great,
Yeah.
great cartoon. You should watch it. The guy who created it is such an awesome like artist too. So I'd love to have
I'll have
him
to
on
check
here
it out.
someday. But yeah, I looked at. I wanted like a. I wanted like a cartoony gnome essentially. So the
Yes.
last year's he's on a skateboard and it says cowabunga. You know,
Mhm.
they're like I told him I could do radical,
Yeah.
cowabunga, or I forget what the third option was, and they love cowabunga, so we did that. And then this
Cowabunga's
year
the
I'm like
one.
I really don't know what to do yet, so
It's going to be another gnome, though, presumably.
it's gonna be another gnome because I think now that everybody there loves the idea of these gnomes
The
being,
gnome.
Yeah.
I was like fine.
Did they tell you like what they were looking for vibe wise?
They haven't said
Nothing
shit to
yet.
me this year. They're just by the way, you can swear, knock yourself out. They were they were she messaged me like what 2 weeks ago when I messaged you, and she's like, "Hey, would you like to do another gnome?" I did say the one thing I won't do is prints. Last year, all these vendors kept messaging me. Oh, if you made a print, I'll come buy a print. Oh, if you make a print, I'll buy a print. And I was like, sure you will. So I made 20 of each. Just
Nothing.
nothing. Not a
Nothing.
single one moved. As the last day, if they just come by, I was just giving them away because I'm like. So I messaged
Oh,
the
I don't know.
Dragon Con lead, and I said, listen, I'm not mad that I made the prints. They look great, and I can still sell them if they want to buy them. I'm more mad at I could use that paper on other prints. Like it's like a waste
Other
of paper.
prints. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if you want, I'll give them to you this year, and you can just hand them out to whoever you want. I don't want to throw these out. I'm like, they're still prints. They're still good. It's still good art. They made
Oh,
keychains out of the skateboarder. They made pins. All the money they make goes to charities. So last year
awesome.
was for cancer research for children, which I'm a cancer survivor, so I was just like, perfect.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know
You
that.
know, I will
Incredible.
donate to that. That's the other reason I was like, you're gonna sell these fucking prints? What's happening? Like
Yeah.
let's make some money on this. But we're straying off the path here. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about so like, can you tell us a little bit about like, so like, we've had other ads that we've interviewed where every single one of you guys has an interesting sort of like, you didn't have a vibe to be an AD at the start, essentially, I guess. That makes sense. Maybe you did.
Sure. I mean, yes and no. So I went to school for illustration, actually. And I went in like a very traditional path of illustration. In fact, I hated graphic design. I had a graphic design class, and it was my least favorite thing.
Yep.
But then I quickly realized that, well, at the time I thought, I can't work from home. Work from home alone.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go crazy. Oh, how things change. Never say never, right? But I was like, okay, I want to try to find how am I going to be an in-house illustrator? Like that's not a position anymore. And then I met Elizabeth Parisi, who's the creative director at Scholastic. She happens to be married to one of my college professors. So she came in, she didn't talk, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're incredible. How do I do this? I want to be like you. So she was really kind and really awesome, and answered all my questions. We talked about books and book design and the career path of publishing, and she really inspired me to go down this path. So I was, I guess, going into my junior year at this point when I decided, okay, I want to have this in-house books job. So I turned every illustration project that I had for the remainder of my time in school into a book-focused project. So if it was an assignment of like, illustrate, the scene from your childhood, or illustrate, whatever the prompts were, I would fulfill the assignment, but then I would also try to put it in like a book context. So everything, even if it was a magazine article, I would like put it in layout and put the type in there and everything. And so then I started really aggressively like trying to figure out how am I going to promote myself. So I made mailers. I made these mailers with like a cover letter and like a little zine and like a little mini portfolio, and like each of them had like these little trinkets that I had made. And I made 20 of them addressed to specific art directors, and children's publishing was my focus at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did end up getting 2 callbacks from that, but not for the job that I ended up getting. I feel like 2 callbacks for 20 mailers is like,
that's a really good hit rate.
That's a pretty good hit rate, yeah.
Out of control. But in my senior portfolio day, I was talking to all the art directors who were like walking around looking at the books, and I was like, I'm here with all these illustrators, but I see myself as a graphic designer. I want to work in book publishing. And the art director I was talking to happened to be looking for someone to fill like an associate designer role. So she gave me her information, and I interviewed, and I got the job like literally right out of school.
Nice.
Which is also absolutely wild, because I graduated in 2009, so like the recession had just happened.
Oh, yeah.
Like a scary time.
Yeah.
But whatever forces I'm working with guided me to this place, and it was great, but it was also really challenging, and the personality of this art director did not end up meshing with mine ultimately, and I almost decided to just quit like the industry altogether. It was that
hard,
jarring,
abrasive, yeah.
But then I started looking for other open positions, and I found a spot at Bloomsbury, and I got hired there, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. My art director there, Donna Mark, love her. She's incredible. She was such a great mentor, like really eager to help me learn and like get me on all these different kinds of projects, like help me figure out what I was really interested in working on. Because as I said, I did all formats: picture books, which is a totally separate skill of design,
mm-hmm.
middle grade, and young adult. So each of them has like different philosophies on how you would tackle the art and design for each of them, different age ranges, right? Different markets. And eventually I learned that I really liked young adult. But I was just chilling at Bloomsbury until I got a call from Simon & Schuster, like, hey, would you want to come in and interview for this position that we have? And I was like, I want to leave Donna. Like, I love her and that. And she was like, you had better go interview at this position because Donna's incredible and was looking out for me. And she was like, go, like, check it out.
Yeah.
So I interviewed and I was like, they're not, they don't want me. They got my name mistakenly somewhere and then quickly realized their ways and I'll just hang out with Donna and everything. But I ended up getting the position. So then I was like, oh God, now what do I do? Like, what if it sucks? My first job sucked and then I found Donna and like Bloomsbury and everything was great. I worked on Throne of Glass when it was first came out.
That's cool.
Even when they repackaged the initial series to have this it went from photographic to illustrated, they kept my type, which was my it's like a nice moment for me. They kept the type throughout the series for quite some time. But anyway, I got this job at Simon and Donna was like, you got to do it. I was like, okay. So then at Simon, I worked exclusively on young adult as a designer.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask as a designer.
So I went from associate designer to associate designer, and then from associate designer at Bloomsbury to designer at Simon & Schuster. And at the time, they had an imprint called Simon Pulse, and it was like exclusively young adult. It is no longer running Simon Pulse, but there was like a big market for young adult at the time. So I moved there and I was there for several years and got promoted, and kind of like the trajectory once you're a designer is like you kind of stick with it for a while. You're heading towards that art director role, right? But then I started thinking about science fiction and fantasy, and I actually interviewed with Lauren years and years and years ago because she had an open position at Orbit Books. Lauren Pampinto at Orbit Books had an open position. I interviewed with her, and unfortunately I didn't get the job, but in some ways I felt like it was kind of nice because with her not being my boss, we could still be friends. Like we had known each other like at events and like socially, and you know, there's a power dynamic there that you have to respect. And
yeah,
I didn't get the job, so I didn't have to respect it. So then I ended up
You're just like,
getting
there
it.
you go.
No, it's fine. It all worked out in the end.
Yeah, I know you guys are really good friends.
I ended up getting a position at Random House in their young adult division. And that was great because in between interviewing with Lauren and being at SNS, I illustrated this picture book. I had my daughter. Quickly realized that's so many things to do. Can't do all those things. Focused on my work, and you know, it was getting to be tricky, like the work from home situation, right? Because like once you have a kid, you have to spend your entire paycheck on childcare, and
oh, we know.
Random House was willing to be,
Oh, we know. Trust me.
Random House was willing to be flexible with me working from home one day a week.
Cool. At
the time. That's what I was doing. And I got the job and it was amazing. And I got to work with so many incredible, talented, amazing people, including Casey Moses, who, if you don't know her work, she's a graphic designer, or she's an art director now. She's so incredibly talented. And my art director there was Allison Impey. I believe that she works on Amazon Books now. But anyway, it was a wonderful team. And again, like I was really lucky. I had these like amazing, really supportive art directors who helped like mentor me and guide me in what I was trying to do. And Allison really put the most behind helping me figure out how to carve an art director spot for myself. Right? Because up until this point, I'm designer, senior designer, whatever. In order to be considered art director, you have to kind of have domain. You have to have dominion, right? A little kingdom of your own. And we had a ton of paperback repackages. No one wanted to do them. It was like, it's a challenging thing, right? Like, here's a book that's already in the market. It's got art on it already. You can't unsee it. And now you have to reinvent this wheel for this marketplace, but in a new but the same way. Over and over and over again. And because the books already exist, they're just waiting on you to come up with a cover.
How often
So,
does a book get repackaged, if you don't mind me
I mean,
asking?
it
Is it kind of
depends.
like once or twice throughout its life cycle, or
It
more
depends.
depending on if it's long? Yeah.
If a book is really successful, it will stay with the package it has for quite some time.
Mhm.
And then if it continues to be successful, but it's been successful for more than, say, 5 to 10 years, it's usually then considered a candidate for repackage just to update it with current trends. And, publishing doesn't want to throw good money after bad, right? So sometimes you would repackage something that didn't work in hardcover because you're like, oh, well, we wanted to try to push this angle, but the readers didn't respond to it. So let's repackage it in paperback to see if we can get these other readers. But 9 times out of 10, that doesn't work. Like, just the book didn't resonate in the market. But you can change a package. You can't change the
The
book
book.
itself, right?
Yeah.
While it's in, but when a book is really has like longevity behind it, it could get repackaged infinite number of times as long as people keep buying it, right?
It's like Lord of the
So
Rings.
exactly. And for me, because my interest is sci-fi fantasy, they had all this Tamora Pierce backlist. So as soon as I started, Allison was like, I know, I know what we can do with you. So, I worked on a lot of different titles. I worked on some Brandon Sanderson. I got to work
I
on so
was
many
just
cool
telling you about
things.
Mistborn before when you punched out earlier when we were trying to go live.
Oh, really?
I was telling him so I'm reading Mistborn right now. I've never read a Sanderson book, so someone's gonna
Okay.
crucify me for this statement later. But
No, 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 that's okay.
it's fine. But the our friends of ours, the Argyle, Stephen, Kat, I have a spot in their booth at Gen Con. They're really good friends with Sanderson. And some of my other friends have been working with. They just did the Cosmere RPG with him. So in my head, I was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
I might meet this guy someday, and I should probably know something about him. He seems like a chill dude, you know. So I was like, and
Yes.
everyone keeps telling me to read Mistborn. I've got it on Kindle, but I was telling Andrew,
Yeah.
I like to read physical books. This is nothing compared to this side of the wall, but
Sure.
I like my Kindle for when I used to travel for shows. Long story short, I was trying to find Mistborn on paperback. It's impossible. Nobody. I mean, I can get it on Amazon. I can get it at Barnes and Noble, but it's like $30. I wanted it. My friend works at
Yes.
half price, so I was trying to find it because at half price I get a discount with him.
Mm.
And he's like, nobody's gonna sell their copy of Mistborn, bro. It's that
They're not.
popular. And then I went to eBay because I was like, I'll just buy it off of eBay. Someone's got to
Oh,
be
did you
hoarding
find a
it.
Sam Weber?
Yeah,
No.
they're there. Sam's covers there. It's
Yes.
just they're like $50, they're like
Of
$60
course
because
they are.
it's rare. And I was like, that's how popular that book is, right? So
It is.
I was just like, well, I'm just gonna finish this on Kindle right now because fuck me, that's all I got. Like I can't spend $30 on a book when I have it right here on another device. That's my point.
I know how that feels. Figure out a way to expense it so that you can
Let
do
me see if I really
research.
like I'll put it this way: if like Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite set of books, so like when Lord of the Rings
Yes.
puts out a cool version, I'm gonna Dark Tower. Obviously, I've got so like I when I see like special editions for those, there's a moment where I'm like, you own these books in hardcover already, but I'm gonna buy that book. Like
I'm working on a
Yeah.
special edition right now. When it's like ready to like be out there in the world, I'm gonna send you the
bro, if
link
it's
and be
Dark
like, yo,
Tower,
you want one of these?
Mm.
You want
like
one?
Dark Tower's
I can get you one. Yeah.
of Dark Tower.
Um no, of
Oh,
something
gotcha,
else
gotcha.
that's
No
gonna look
worries.
so cool.
I mean, yeah, like every X,
And
like I've got
don't
a
want to
small
be
shelf of
open.
like Lauren sent me first what's it called, Leviathan Wars, from
Yes.
Oh yeah. Expanse.
yeah, the expand. And
Hmm.
I took one look at that book and I'm like, Lauren, I could have done this for you, like she's like, I know, but I like books like I have some cool like rare books like that, right? I like that book. I like the Witcher stuff they did, so like I get what you're saying when they reprint. If it's because like the book itself has got to be good too,
The book is
you know
great. It will get repackaged over and over and over and
right?
over again.
Like Witcher is amazing, so I think the repackaging on
Yes.
that is amazing. I don't know what you guys work. I don't know if you did that. I think it's Orbit.
No, no. Yeah, Witcher is on the Orbit side.
Yeah,
I've done a fair share of repackages. Most of the history of my repackages are on the young adult side, right? So I did all these Tamora Pierce books, was great too because I got to meet her, and she's great. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And I was really stressed. Children's publishing is such an interesting world, and the people who work in it will tell you that it is like kind of a weird
I've
environment,
heard
right?
stories, yeah.
It's a weird environment, and I was kind of getting overwhelmed and frustrated, and I just, we were all stuck inside. I was like, I gotta find a way to relate to my work differently. So I reached out to someone that I knew worked in the adult division at Random House that I had met through doing like DEI work through the office. And I was like, hey, do you know anyone in the art department that I can just like pick their brain? I just want to go on like a fact finding mission. Like maybe it sucks in adult and I don't want to like try to angle my way that way. Or maybe it could be better than what I'm doing right now. And maybe I can like start like building my portfolio to try to like transition to that direction. So this lovely woman, Teresa, sent me my current boss's contact information. Now, this is just kind of very typical of me. I don't pay attention to people's titles. It doesn't like occur to me to like dig too deeply if I'm just gonna like have a chat,
Sure.
So I'm talking to the, creative director for all of Random House, and I have no idea. So I'm just like, hey,
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm Vicky. And I got your name from Teresa, and I just want to see like what is it like in adult? Like, here's what's going on in kids, and here's what I like to do. And I'm thinking about trying to move to adult design. I've done like some freelance projects in adult. Like, do you think like if I add a couple more pieces, if I like, pick up some more freelance work, my book will be such that I could move from YA to adult? And he was like, actually, I think I need you. Here's what's going on. And he explained to me, like, he had been kind of overwhelmed with what was happening with Del Rey because he's not a science fiction fantasy nerd. Lovely man, but
Sure.
not our people, And he was just really struggling with it. And he was like, I feel like you could help me with like what all is going on. So then I moved from Random House Kids to Random House Adult. Now that is how I met you. Because
yes,
once I transitioned into this role, like Lauren and I, again, we get to be friends, but now we're like parallel colleagues, which is amazing. And oh my gosh, the team at Random House is incredible and also very intimidating because I know how to do this thing that I do. Like, you need something kind of ooky spooky, like we're gonna monsters and dragons and cryptids and mayhem and magic. Like, I'm down. But I also work alongside all of these incredibly talented book designers and art directors that are just brilliant. And they work on these incredible books that span the gamut of like literary genres. And I'm just here like, so magic. Let's talk about it. But I love it. I am so happy that I made this move because now it feels like I've been training my whole life for this. So I
You're like
saw
specialized in that.
exactly. Like I saw Elizabeth Parisi way back when, 16 years ago. More than that probably at this point now. 17, 18 years ago. Met her and was like, wow, like it would be so cool to do the thing that you do, but for the things that I like, And somehow here I am. I can't believe it. And I've been here the entire time. So
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Great. Very fortunate.
That's cool.
No, I mean,
I do love it when when someone like finds their niche that they're like, oh yes, this is exactly what I was designed for. Or I'm built for this kind of thing. I think I was how long ago was that? I don't know, like a few years ago. Like, I started doing advertising freelancing for like movies and TV and stuff. And I remember telling Alan and I think another one of our friends, I was like, you know what, like this is definitely like I was always afraid of it for a long time because I had a lot of like preconceived notions about the time frames and stuff and all that kind of thing. And then I got into it, and I guess all the years of doing like the apparel design stuff, it's like, oh, it's like the same kind of timeline. I don't care. This is nothing to me. This is absolute child's play for me, and I get to actually draw stuff that I like to draw instead of like random stuff that's like sometimes not fun. Um,
Exactly. Oh, isn't that exciting when you get to just make the pictures that you want to make?
yeah, yes.
Like,
I mean, I
not
think
to
that's
no
smart.
shade to any of the sports fans. I know that we just had a big sports ball day. But like occasionally I'd have to work on like, this like hard-hitting young adult baseball novel. And I'd be like,
Yeah,
okay, how am I
yeah,
gonna do this?
yeah. You
Dude, I
still got
didn't
to be
even
like,
know
okay,
the
how am I
Super Bowl
What
gonna
was
does the
happening on
control
baseball
Sunday.
look like?
Dude, I didn't even know Super Bowl was happening on Sunday until people were like, I was hanging out with a bunch of artists and we were just all working on stuff, and they were like, "Oh, I gotta log off. I gotta go watch the Super Bowl." I'm like, "That's today?" I was like, "Oh man." I remember in my 20s I used to plan for it. We make chili and hang out with your friends. But now I'm working on all my own stuff. I do think it's cool that I get to I've got the ability to work on my own stuff. You know, and I do
It's
take on
nice.
freelance, and like I enjoy that, but not as much as I enjoy my own stuff. Obviously, like
Yeah.
I've done. I had 2 magic cards last year. I'm working on 2 right now. And it's a little like I like the fact that I'm doing the magic cards because I love magic, but I'm also a little bit like, oh, you just pulled away from your projects to do this, you know. And so it's like a half and half. It's a little bit of like the kid in me is enjoying the freelance work because it's something I wanted to do, but the other part of me is like the world builder in me is like, I want to get back to the ancient ones like as quickly as I can, but I don't want to do a
Right.
half-assed job over here. I'm still gonna give them 100%, So I got a
It's
small
totally
bucket
a
list of
juggle.
items, that I'm check magic, D&D, book cover, comic book cover, and then I might
Yeah.
then I might retire. Like I did the board game. I did the board game. Andrew knows the whole.
Yep.
The first game I did was great. The second game I did was a clusterfuck.
Oh
Um,
no.
oh, I had a
I do like
whole.
board
I can't.
games.
I can't name names. I can talk to you about it privately later. But I had a
Okay.
horrible AD. It was the worst
Oh no.
experience I've ever had. Like it.
What
It,
made it
it
horrible?
was
Why was the AD so bad?
They just didn't. They just didn't art direct me at all. I did all the work on my own.
it was a lot of like personal, professional stuff that was like, what is happening?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I was friends with this person, but they hired me to do this job. I think I did all the work is being used finally, but there was a point where they sent a very unprofessional email. Basically, they screwed up somewhere, and then they just steamrolled me saying I missed deadlines and stuff, imaginary
Oh
deadlines that didn't
no.
exist. So I was like, and I handled it. I was very professional the whole way through.
I
I,
trust.
I knew enough people in the industry at this point where I reached out to them and said, "How should I respond to this? Like, this is
Yeah.
in my 20 plus years of freelance work. I've never had anyone tell me like the stuff that's in this email. Like, it's just
That was like a unique
it was a personal
Rat
dig.
King ball. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a real unique situation through and
So I
through.
mean, I can talk to you about it later, Regina. But basically, I did what I talked to the right. I ran it up the ladder. I ended up talking to the VP of the company, essentially, to the one of the owners of the company. Be like, this is a bad look for you guys because I was like, you're other. So it's a big company that owns. I work for the smaller company that they own. I said it looks bad for you guys because your other company's treating me like some random artist they can just kick to the curb. But I'm like, everybody in this industry knows who I am, and everybody in this industry now is being made aware not to work with you guys. Like,
That is
you
something
know,
I talk about this with illustration students all the time. Like if I go and like, I used to go to, you know, talk to university and that kind of thing. I was saying, especially in the more niche fields, like the more specialized the field is, the closer knit usually, and like the smaller the group of people, and
yep,
especially in publishing, like it's such a tiny little world, and word gets around, good and
yep,
bad. Your reputation's going to precede you, so you have to kind of act as if, you're always trying to
yeah.
best foot forward.
I mean, I tell artists, like in Scott's class, anytime Scott wants me to speak up and say anything, some of the younger artists, I say, just be professional. Even if
Yeah.
if like Andrew's read this email, I'm like, if they're treating you poorly, you stay professional. Like, because at the end of the day,
You got to take the high road.
yeah, I mean, I took the high road, but I took it in a very professional manner. I took it straight up the ladder. I was like, no, like I will not allow this guy to.
That's where the high road leads. To the
Well, I'm
top.
like, you're trash talking my name. I mean, they came and spoke. The guys in charge came and spoke to me at Gen Con last year,
Oh my
and
gosh.
they were like, we asked around. We understand this is bad. This is bad for us, And I was like, yeah. I'm like, go look at half the art. I'm like, 80% of the artists in this room would die to protect me. So you do what you want to do with that information. Like, you guys look very bad right now, And
Oh my gosh, may I one day cultivate such a strong army as you have?
I think I'm lucky in that sense because I have a lot of people backing my play on stuff I do artistically. Like when I do, like for example, when I do character designs in Scott's class, Andrew's the one who helps me with my 3D builds. He helps me with my turnarounds, right? Because I don't do 3D
Nice.
work, and I'm in Scott's class because I wanted to learn character design, which is not my strong suit. Like I sent you that lich I did. I sent it to Lauren too, and that was me challenging myself because I've never done a character sitting down. They're always in some form of superhero pose, right?
Sure.
Because when you read a lot of comics, those are the poses you get. Like how often you see Superman
Yes.
sitting down. So I challenged myself to do that. It was a fun piece to work on, but the problem was I focused too much on that crocodile. So everybody's like, "What about this skeleton?"
Crocodile looks pretty good.
Thanks. Yeah, but I'm like, but I lean on people like Andrew and some other friends I have a private server I set up with just artists I trust. We all lean on each other for crits or whatever, So
It's so funny that you say that because, okay, so when I started at Del Rey, I had all my experience up to that point was in children's publishing, which my experience had been, even with my, not so agreeable art director of my first job, there's still always like a core art team that all got together as like part of job, whether it was like the art director and all the designers or like just a bunch of art directors, like there was always like a circle of art people within the group. But in adult, I didn't realize this, but all of the art directors are essentially islands. Like they didn't have like a weekly art team meeting. They didn't have like imprint specific like art groups. That there were designers that were, I mean, this is the way it is. There are designers, there are art directors, and designers by and large don't run the project. Like they're not the ones in charge of scheduling the meetings and handling the communication with the editorial team and like making sure everything goes together. That primarily is the art director. The designer will do the designs, like we'll come up with cover comps and everything, and they'll talk to each other during the working on a project together. But other than that, there is generally speaking not like a specific art creative meeting, which I didn't know when I started. So I came on to Del Rey, and there are two art directors already there. Scott Beal and David Stevenson, who are both incredibly talented
I've talked to David.
Gentlemen who have been doing this job for a very long time. I was like, I'm just gonna mosey in here and they're going to hate me, infiltrating. What is going on? I was like, but it's okay because we're gonna have our team meeting. It's gonna be fine. So like as soon as I started, I like set up, weekly art team meeting, and like we had a group chat that was like Del Rey Art Department. And then like 6 months later, I come to find out nobody does this. Like no other imprint, like no other.
They just went along with you. That's great though.
They just everyone just totally went along with it. They were just down for the ride. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I am mortified. All of these people think I'm the most annoying person ever. Because like, what do you want one more meeting on your calendar? Oh my God. And I was like, I'm that asshole. Oh my
God. That's trying to schedule the extra meeting.
Though,
yeah.
Like,
right. And so I disbanded everything. I was like, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, everyone. I'm so sorry. And then like another, 3 to 6 months went by. And I was talking to an incredible book artist and one of my mentors from college, Rose Reader, and she had another friend over who was visiting from California, and he's like an art director in animation and very talented, very cool. And I was telling him about this whole thing, and he was like, "Well, it kind of sounds like people were getting something out of it. Like you were
Yeah.
getting something out of it, obviously." I was like, "Yeah, but I don't want to be." And he was like, "Brought it back, people would be down." It's like, well, I need to bring it back because I have a difficult time. Just like we were saying, you have your trusted group of artists that you like
Yep.
run things by. I feel the most confident in my work when I can share what I have with the art team first and kind of talk it out before I share with editorial. Because once it goes to the editors, right, it's like delivering to your client, right? Like it's out of your hands, like that.
Right.
Whatever you
Yeah.
show is what it is, and you are being judged based on that. So I brought back the creative meetings in the chat, and everybody was like, "Yeah, we actually loved it. We love a chance to gab, like because we wouldn't necessarily always talk
It's
about."
like, why
our
were they
works and
quiet for
Yeah.
6
the
months?
shit, you know?
That's surprising they didn't do those meetings for that while. Yeah, because just having that gut check alone to be like, hey, like, I feel like this is working, but do you think that this is working? Like the whatever
So
cover that I'm designing or anything like that?
So I think it's just the culture was different, right? Like they would have weekly cover meetings for the imprints, and all the art directors were there, the creative director was there, and they would have basically it would be like crit wall, like when you're in class for illustrating, it would be crit wall. But it would be primarily the art director talking to the editorial team, but just in like a big open venue. And sometimes the other art directors would weigh in
Yeah.
for better or worse. Some people were very challenging in the feedback that they would also deliver. A lot, like you could have challenging editorial feedback and challenging art director feedback in the same meeting, which like my heart simply cannot take it. That was definitely difficult a couple of times that I was in those meetings. But yeah, like a separate meeting away from editorial, like just for the art team to kind of convene
Yeah.
and like workshop. We didn't, as far as I know, until I started. I then renamed the Godzilla design group instead of the Del Rey art department, because not all of us work on Del Rey now.
Right.
Like a couple of the designers were like, "We like you and this is cool and we want to hang out, but I never want to work on a Del Rey project again." I'm like, cool. Like we can still, we're vibing. You don't
Yeah.
have to, but we can vibe because you're we're all talented. Godzilla, titans of the industry. So
Like Monarch. Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's always a good idea to have those kind of groups set up to help people get their stuff together. Like, essentially, Andrew and I are part of a much larger group of artists that were set up for smart school students, and that group has now. I'm one of the moderators for that.
It's gotten so large, it's unwieldy.
It's like almost 800 people now, right?
Oh my gosh, that's a very big group.
And 800 people aren't in there talking at all the time, but there were channels set up for we've cleaned it up since, but there were channels set up for like crits and business and all that. And it was like you would ask a question, it would just get squashed by other people talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like watching a Twitch stream, like the chats would just keep going, So in my head, I was like, I'm gonna set up something a little more intimate and private to myself. Selfishly, I set it up for myself because I was just like, I want to hang with these artists, but not these jokers over here.
Sorry, jokers.
I don't get along with all the artists.
You don't make the
cut. Go figure. I run my mouth. So I invite, and it's a private server and it's a secret server. So I only invite, like, if I like you as an artist and I trust you as a person and an artist, I will invite you into the server. A couple of people have slipped up and talked about it. Big deal. It is a secret society. Maybe you'll get an invite someday. No, I think if I add an art director in it, they'll bother you to no end. That's the problem. You'd have to be on the scene.
Yes. Maybe.
Like
maybe not.
That's
I don't know.
Like I've asked Lauren. It'd be awesome to have someone like Lauren in there. But again, if someone finds out an AD is in there, I feel like I don't know. I think most of them are cool. It's like, be cool, bitches, be cool. But
I think. Yeah,
I could name a handful of them that would set off, so like.
Yeah, there's a couple people, but I think most part it'd be cool.
Like we've added some bigger name magic artists in there now, and I had to like message 5 or 6 of them on the side, individuals on the side, to be like, be cool. Like,
Cool, okay.
like they should feel comfortable in here. If you're gonna bombard them with
Yeah.
questions and harass them, they're not gonna be, because it's set up to be like there's a business section, so there's crits and business talk and like and then there's a more like world talk, so there's like a section for like news that's happening current and like family and stuff, but then there's a section where it's all like hobbies, and it's literally like movies and music and models, and it's supposed to be a fun safe space essentially, and it essentially was only like 20 or 30 artists, and now I think we're at 65 at this point. I try to kind
Is
of
it
keep it at that
really?
number. I feel like we're going to approach 100 at some point, because even though you tell people not to talk about it, people hear about it,
Oh no.
and some people get mad when you say you can't get in. Trust me, there's an
Mhm.
individual out there
Mhm.
just trash talking me away.
The secret part is the hardest part of a secret society, I feel.
It is. The first rule is don't talk about it. Literally, I'm like, it's a secret private server, and it's also full of people like who don't like, when I'll use this individual as an example. When they ask to be, why didn't add them, it's because there's people in there that don't want them in there because they don't get along, and they didn't like hearing.
See, that's
that.
why I'm not going to get an invite. You're going to have somebody be like,
I think everybody likes you. Everybody who met you at IX said you were really cool.
Nobody. It's because they haven't gotten a chance to know.
They don't know the real you. The one that comes in there and is like, we're doing private meetings every week.
Yeah, exactly.
Together.
The person who comes in and is like, yeah, we're gonna share the work that we're working on. We're gonna ask each other for help on the things that we're doing. There's gonna be no agenda, or we could just talk about fun things we ate.
That's perfect, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, there was an artist in the group who wanted to do weekly meetings. They don't do that to these people; they'll stress out. But what I have done recently is I started a comic book club in there. Someone suggested a book club, and I said that sounds great, but I don't think people are going to sit there and you got to give them like a short like dessert essentially to start them off, right?
It's a lot of commitment to be in a book
club. It's a lot of commitment to read a whole book, right? Because there's a mixed bag in there. Like, some people will read sci-fi fantasy like we would, and then some people want to read like what's that,
memoirs.
Like Crown of Thorns or something. I can't remember what it's
called.
What
is it?
Is it Crown of Thorns? It's like
a Court of Thorns and Roses.
Yes, but what is that category?
Okay, don't knock it till you try it.
I haven't read it. I'm just saying that's not sci-fi fantasy, right?
It is entirely fantasy, yes.
Okay, so I know like some people in that group were like, and some people in the group were like, that's amazing. So I was like, see, like, you can't do a book club on this, right? Because how would I pitch it to people, right? Like, I'm the kind of person to be like, oh, like, I've got books here that people suggested that I've looked at. I'm like, I don't know, but I'll buy it. I'll give it a whirl. I trust your opinion on those things. But so I said, book club is hard because it's like someone's going to suggest, like you said, a memoir, and then the rest of us would be like, no.
And everyone's like, no, I want my fairy porn. Why are we not reading fairy porn? Then you'll say, Regina told me about A Court of Thorns and Roses. And I said, I don't know about that.
Is that what it's about?
She said, yes, not only is it fantasy, but it is in fact fairy porn.
Well, see, I just learned something.
You don't know what you're missing.
I'll give it a whirl. I'll add it to my stack of 50 books. And then,
I mean, I know what that's like because I have to read so many books for my work.
I mean,
that like it becomes difficult to read outside of the work. Like, I have to get so many manuscripts into my brain.
Yeah, actually, that's a question I never thought of. So, like, I know like certain like I've heard it from like comedians and like directors of like thrillers and that kind of thing, where it's like when you're in that space for so long, you end up consuming, like, say, like an example, like say like a David Fincher type, right? He's directing this kind of films, and then you ask him, it's like, oh, so like, what do you watch or whatever? And he's like, I watch Real Housewives.
Yeah.
Because I need something that is like so different from what I do day to day, and I need something that I can just easily digest and is like so different and is completely out of my wheelhouse. And I hear that a lot, where it's like, yeah, like you hear from like comedians that are like really, they don't watch like other comedies, they watch like serious stuff or whatever, a lot of that kind of thing, or like
Sure.
the flip side where it's like directors of like thrillers and psychological horror movies and all that kind of thing, and they're like, oh, I watched Judge Mathis, or I watch whatever like daytime trash TV is on. Like that's
That
that's
Grace,
the thing
love
that
it.
I go through. Yeah. So no, I wonder like so do you because of how many like sci-fi fantasy books you have to read day in day out for your job, like do you still read a lot of that in your off time, or do you read completely other stuff as
Like
a result where you're like, I
westerns.
can't stay in sci-fi fantasy all this time, I have to go eat somewhere else for a little bit?
Well, uh, yes and no. Um, so I read, yeah, near exclusively sci-fi fantasy now for my job, and I love that. And then when I'm not reading for work, I tend to read nonfiction in the occult direction or herbal medicine or any of the random weird niche interests that I have that tend to actually usually have fantasy relatable counterparts. For example, I have a spinning wheel upstairs. I love to spin yarn. Spinning is often a theme in fantasy books and stories. You know, everything from like your Greek myths up to Tamora Pierce has a book about there's like a magical spindle in one of those. So I could give you a whole TED talk on like the anatomy of a spinning wheel and how all of that works. Or the other thing recently that's been really exciting to me is reading about Hildegard von Bingen. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. She was a 12th century poet and abbess and polymath, and she has I think the oldest recorded music like of time was written by her. She used to write like these sacred monophonies, which were, religious hymns, but she had like visions. She had visions of God, and she was an herbalist, and she wrote like a medicine manual and all kinds of. She's fascinating, and she also suffered, I believe, from the same kind of migraines that I get. I get visual migraines with aura. I don't know if you've ever
Oh,
experienced.
that's my wife has those a lot.
Where she like sees lights, right, in her
Yeah,
vision when it
the really
happens.
bad ones, yeah, they can be like that.
So I get that. And apparently Hildegard did as well. And she used to call this like
Oh.
flaming like light of God. And she would like have these ecstatic experiences talking about this light that would appear and the pain that would accompany it. And the type of inspiration she would get like from God about, you know, veritas and like what did she call it? It was like veridity or something like that. It was like basically the greenness of the earth
Mm.
somehow linked to like our conception of God. And so anyway, like whether it's Aleister Crowley or like 12th century abbesses or,
That
spinning
sounds
wheels,
cool
some
though.
shit like that. I'm still interested in all of that stuff, but just in like the more
Nonfiction
nonfiction
Yeah,
side,
yeah.
yeah.
sense. Yeah.
I've read a lot of I've got a bunch of books that I used for research when I was initially writing ancient ones. Originally the idea was all Egyptian mythology based in my head.
Oh my gosh, you and my daughter would have like the best time talking
Yeah,
about Egyptian
yeah, field,
mythology.
dude, bring her to the field. Um,
She would love
the
it.
field museum, by the way, for anyone thinks I said bring her to the field. Field museum has one of the biggest Egyptian setups here in Chicago. But like
Oh my
as a
gosh, we'll have
kid,
to
I
go.
remember I as a kid when in the there was like a blizzard of '89, I believe it was, or '87. Like I spent the night at the museum there. So I immediately like just
At this field museum.
at the field, yeah, because the school
Okay.
buses couldn't move because there's a blizzard, and I just remember walking through all of that and just being so interested in every single aspect of Egyptian mythology, right? They're like
Yes.
insane storytellers, even if
Yes.
but as a kid, I believe in my head I was like, oh my god, all these gods exist, and I was raised Catholic, by the way, so coming home
Ditto.
to my dad's brothers who are two Catholic priests and asking them about like all these Egyptian gods. And
Uh-huh.
I remember my
How'd
dad's
that go?
brothers. It was well, the one very uh uh I'm gonna call God rest their souls, but he was uppity as fuck, and he was just like
Uh-huh.
he did not like the fact that I was questioning the religion. but meanwhile,
Uh huh.
the uncle
Familiar.
who I got along with the best, Father Bosco, was always like, he went to DePaul. He studied sociology, theology. He was one of those people that was like, he would always say things like, if you force religion on him, he's not going to want to practice it. Let him do what he
That's
wants. So when
wise.
I asked questions, he gave me all these books on Egyptian mythology. So I had this
Nice.
stack. So like I started like, that was like, I was questioning these things at a young age. So I couldn't really read them all as much as I wanted to. But as I got to high school, I started reading those books again. And that's where I kind of started. Initial idea was I was going to base it on a whole Egyptian world, right? Of all these creatures. Like the idea was aliens were visiting and they look like, it was almost like Stargate essentially at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? But then one of my cousins one day was like, why aren't you writing about Indian mythology? You're Indian. But that led to me learning about, like, I've got books on Japanese mythology, Norse mythology, and all that. And I found this book of, I wish I could find it. I found this fat book of demons. And
I got a fat book of demons back there.
I'm pretty sure it might be the same one. Oh, maybe I'll find it and I'll send you a photo of it later. But it had like,
it's not the Goetia, is it?
It's like it's a
mini
fat red
demons.
book. I found it at Powell's one day when I was my first time visiting Portland. And
nice.
My friend's like, "Have you ever been to Powell's?" And I'm like, "No." And I love books, so they took me to this giant ass bookstore, and I found one book on like mythologies from all over the world, and then this book of demons, which had like, you name a demon from any myth, it's in there, and it explained the demon. And initially, I wouldn't read books like that because I used to work at Barnes and Noble as a receiver, and like the Necronomicon would go in and out of there all the time. And my friends and I would be like, "Don't read that," like we don't know what we're gonna take home because we were all like into like, we used to go. We grew up like, if somebody said a house was haunted, we'd go check out the house.
Not to.
Yeah, that's how we grew up, right? We would go down.
The Catholics are the most mystical of the Christian traditions. Ghosts, transmutation of bread to flesh, like you're primed for ghosts and all that kind of shit.
I mean, was Jesus a vampire? Maybe. He's all like drinking
also
blood.
For a monotheistic religion, we have a litany of saints that borderline like
the saints, they intercede.
Yeah, like it's basically polytheism at that point with the amount of saints that are going on.
But my point was, I like reading,
Yeah.
Because there's an edge of like, what if this does exist somewhere? Why not, right? Like, people are always, people are always like, I'm like, you don't go, people are like, oh, you're just saying these demons exist. I'm like, well, you don't fuck with them, they ain't gonna fuck with you, maybe, the Japanese mythology is scary as fuck. Like, those guys made some bananas demons, like, guaranteed you don't want to break those rules, but the Book of Demons is interesting, and Necronomicon I've never read, mainly for reasons stated before. I was always like, don't say this thing's name out loud, but like over the years I've gotten like, you mentioned some of the witchy stuff earlier. I've gotten more into, I like reading the actual like nonfiction stuff to see like, how like what people like were believing and how they got to like, I read some stuff on the Salem witch trials, and that stuff was kind of like scary, like, but also like, what if there were witches? That would have been kind of cool, like,
there are lots of witches.
Oh, I know.
Some of them call themselves witches and some of them don't.
Yeah.
But there are lots,
I think it's cool, send someone over to take out some of these bad guys.
I think the witches have collectively been working on all of that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm here for that, man. Like,
the trouble is, at the end of the day, and then this is the opinion of just this witch, right? What you are enacting when you decide to enter the ritual chamber is a personal magical psychodrama, the effects of which will be more impactful in your immediate sphere and become less impactful the more you try to influence outside of your immediate sphere, right? So you enter the ritual chamber, you go and you do whatever it is that you want to do to seek your will. But at the end of the day, you're working on you. in the chamber. Can there be impacts outside? Absolutely. Because, whatever you're doing, however you move through your environment, through your world, is going to ripple out and impact things one way or another, for good or for ill. Maybe towards your goals, maybe not towards your goals, depending on how, you're approaching things. But when it comes to broadly speaking, hex the patriarchy, I'm all for it. But there are other things we can be doing.
Sure. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's just
that's just me.
Well, I'm gonna message you later. I have ideas. These are the kind of things I want to because here's the thing. I hear stuff like this, and I hear the stories I read, and in my head, I almost immediately want to world build something, right? How can I work?
Yes.
How can I work this into so my series? I have these 9 witches, but that's there's certain things I've written about them, but not at a level where I feel like it could feel a little bit more to people. So when I started working this RPG, and I was like, here's the chance for you to create 9 unique witches and give them 9 unique abilities. Give them, the original idea for them came from, and I don't know if have you read Forgotten Realms back in the day, Menza Berenzon? So the original idea came from reading Triss books and Menza Berenzon and the Matron Mothers. So I always wanted that. I like that idea of these women being in charge, right? Instead of, I wholeheartedly believe women can run this world a lot better than men. Crucify me for that if you want. But the idea was that, but when I started writing the story, I was got the base concept, which is power. They're in charge. But then the more I read about things, I'm how do I work these things in? And every once in a while, I meet somebody like yourself who says who has a little more knowledge on it. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I've got books, but I've got books I'm randomly finding. I go to the library and I'm the demon book. I randomly found it at Powell's, but maybe it was meant to
the
be
demons
found.
like to find you.
Yeah, great. That's there. Hey man, I'll work with a friendly demon any day of the week. I don't think they're all.
The thing about demons is that they're big on reciprocity. That's the teaching of demons in my view, right? The whole conceit of working with demons, generally speaking, is in a ritual magic, high ceremonial magic context, right? And again, my personal view is, this is a ritual psychodrama, right? A psychodrama usually for the magician who's going to enter this chamber. So if you decide to enact a pact, do a working, make contact with any of these entities, right? These entities that, whether it's from, Western mythology or Eastern mythology or wherever they're from, right? These are entities that have thoughts and feelings and ideas and stories that kind of flesh them all out. Egregores is the idea, right? They just kind of exist because their stories are there. They exist. But you work with demons usually only in a very ceremonial capacity, because you need to shift your perspective enough and create boundaries around what you're doing enough that you can fully enter into contact with this idea, right? An idea that is powerful and scary and outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And then it requires a discipline and a reciprocity, right? The discipline is you have to know what you're asking for, who best to ask it from, how to ask it in a way that is respectful, and then how to forget about it for long enough for it to appear, and then come back to who you originally asked the favor of and fulfill your end of the bargain with whatever you promised at the outset, whether it's gratitude to their name or a bite of an apple or ride on a roller coaster, whatever it is. You have to fulfill your end of the bargain. Otherwise, things kind of go screwy because you are not completing the ritual. You're not fulfilling the whole cycle. And in order for the psychodrama to work, in order for all of this to work, right, it requires an immense level of discipline and knowledge. And you don't just go fucking around with demons.
Correct.
That's going to really mess up
I also like
everything.
the idea that a demon might say, my bargain is a ride on a roller coaster.
It depends on the demon that you're talking to.
By the way,
okay?
I quickly pulled, this is the book I was talking about, the field guide.
Oh yeah, that's the one I have.
I almost certainly have a copy of that in my
And
basement.
then the other one
right now.
is this book, which is really cool. It's a compendium of monsters, myths, and legends. And this is kind of this. Both these books I found at Powell's that time. And
Nice.
they're I like books like this because there's. I'm not saying every single thing in here is like, yes, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. But every X, there's like you look through and you'll see like specific things, and there are things that when I meet people at shows where they'll read about something and they'll be like, is this based on a Greek demon? Is this based on a Japanese demon? I'm just like, good, yes, like you figured me out. I'm like,
Well spotted.
yeah, good job, Sherlock. Like, and it's cool, right? Like, because it's like
Yes.
someone actually knows what I'm not outright telling you what it is, right? Because that's storytelling, So speaking on like demons and witches, we were talking about movies too. I was going to ask you what your favorite kind of like. I tend to watch more supernatural horror movies. Like I love like Tawny, Tawny. Tawny, I love the show Supernatural. Like I like movies, shows like that, and I like movies like that had deal with like more supernatural elements of things. But some people tend to like. I hate gore. I don't watch gore, and I think that's one of the reasons you guys were talking about Substance. Is that what it's called?
Substance, yeah.
And a couple clips I saw from it seemed a little. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a good movie, and because no one's had anything bad to say about it. And those kind of movies, I always have to like build myself. Like Hereditary was an example. Like I saw a couple pieces of it, and I was like,
Yes.
And then I took the
Demons, famously, yeah.
Yeah, and I took the time to sit down and watch it, and then I was like, that was good. It had me on edge the whole time, though. Like
yes. And the parts that were really gory and really like visceral served overall the message and the plot of the movie, right? Which is what I would say about the Substance.
Not just there for its own sake, like
hostile.
hostile.
Yeah, I like it when it's not there just to be like, this is gore. Like here you go. Or this
That's
is
like the torture porn.
I hate that. Like I remember my cousins took me to watch Hostel, and I didn't get through the first like 15 minutes. I was like, I'm out.
It's rough. I mean, honestly, I don't discriminate. I like all of it. I like it to be really like heady, psychological. I like it to be gory and over the top. Like I love a trauma film, like really ridiculous. Especially I like horror when it can be a little funnier. It can make a comedic beat.
Like I like Evil Dead.
Like yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like all of it. Monster. I love a good werewolf movie, like a solid werewolf transformation.
Silver
always
Bullet was
a great time.
I really like. You mentioned werewolves. Do you remember the show Werewolf that used to be on like Fox? I think when it was like this guy who was like, it was kind of like an Incredible Hulk setup. Like the dude he was a traveler. He would hitchhike everywhere, and he always get caught up in these situations where he'd be like, "Don't piss me off," and then like they would like
fucking werewolf.
The werewolf, and he just become. And they would show like I just remember the special effects would show like his like skin like peeling open and the claw coming out like a longer like claw coming out.
Oh,
and they would show his mouth open up and his like teeth and
the
jaw would like the mouth, like what do you call it, the mouth or the muzzle, like it would like come out, and I'd be like, and I was like 9 or 10 when the show was on. I'd be like, and I just remember this episode where he was trapped in like a hospital or something, and he saves like this doctor and this nurse and a bunch of people, and at the end the doctor like scrubs the tapes and like hides his secret, and that's the only episode my brain can remember for some reason. Like I don't remember any of the other ones, but you mentioned the werewolves, and yeah, if I can see like I think Silver Bullet was always one of my, because I love Stephen King. He's like one of my favorite authors, right? It's the book, what is it, the Cycle of the Werewolf? That's what it is, Cycle of the Werewolf. The book was great. The movie, when it first came, if you watch it now, you can see all the corny special effects. Like we've discussed this before, Andrew. But like for its time, it's still a scary fucking movie. Like when you find out who the werewolf is, you're like, oh, bro, you're in a lot of trouble.
Oh yeah.
But
I'm gonna take this opportunity to pitch you my favorite horror movie.
Yes.
Yeah, well, let's hear it. I'm curious.
So we were just talking about ritual magic. Obviously, this is a thing that I'm personally into. So there's this movie called A Dark Song.
Yeah, right. And
I want to say it was like 2016, maybe something like this.
I
It
think
is
I've
the
heard of that
most
one. Yeah.
screen accurate depiction of ritual magic I've ever seen.
Dark
And
Song.
they enact a real ritual called the Ritual of the Abramelin, which is like a famous ritual. You can like go research it, and all of the things that they show and what it's about and what they're trying to achieve all lines up with this actual, real, you know,
What
historically
is
famous ritual. And it's a story of a woman who seeks out an occultist to help her complete this ritual, for reasons that she tells the audience and the occultist in the beginning. But you kind of come to find that she has kind of something hidden, something more going on as to what she's trying to achieve and why she's trying to achieve it. And they're in this house performing this ritual, and the movie is just what happens. And it is so powerful, and a little bit of gore, definitely some scares. I was in it for the ritual magic of it all. And when I finished the film, I was like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty good. And then 2 weeks later, I had a nightmare about it.
Oh boy.
And
Ooh, it's stuck in your head.
it all came together. Like the themes were all there, right? When I saw it the first time. And I was like, that's what it's about. Cool. And then I had this nightmare, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, there was something like really happening here, and like something happened to me. And my favorite horror movies are the ones that remind me that I'm the monster, right? Whether it's something like this where it's like really deeply personal, like revelation, or I'm just enjoying a absolute batshit schlocky crazy thing, and I'm
Right.
just like in it for the guts and the glory, you know what I mean? Like whatever it is.
Hellraiser.
Dark Song, I highly recommend.
Dark Song. Yeah, I'll have to
I wrote
check
it
that
down.
out.
Dark Song. I have to look it
Feel
up.
like I might have heard of that before, but I haven't seen it. That sounds interesting, though.
The book that I mentioned at the top before we went live about a witch was, I think it's called the V. I'll definitely look it up. It's
Okay.
based on, there's a movie that they did called The Vive or something. I think I sent it to you, Andrew, a trailer of it. It's like, I think they made a movie in like the 90s. There's like parts of the, like in the movie, this guy, like, like the clip they have in the trailer that I sent Andrew was like he's eating in like his tavern. Everyone around him starts chaining into some form of demon, and he quickly, they tell the characters told that chalk is one of his most powerful tools, and he quickly draws like a circle of protection around himself, right? And whatever.
Okay.
But the it's based on a book that was written in like 1812 or like maybe way before that, about a group of kids that go bother a witch. They go to like a forest, they get lost. I can't remember the whole thing, but it's like I remember I saw it on Amazon for like $2, and I'm sure you can find it. But they go to the witch's house, they do something to her, she casts a spell on them and somehow keeps them there. And then she turns one of the boys into, like, I believe a horse, and she rides him all over town till he's so exhausted he dies. He eventually turns back into a human, and she's still riding him or something. And I don't remember the whole thing, but I just remember the wiki article about it. 'Cause that's the first time I read it. Right, it was on a Wikipedia page when I was doing some research on witches. Obviously, that reading something like that in the early 1800s would scare the bejesus out of people, right? Like, so like I'll find it, and maybe you've heard of it. Maybe once you see it, it'll jog your memory on something. But I always thought it was I thought it was interesting because I like those old stories, because it's like I'm curious to always like what's going through your head. Like, did you actually see this? Like, and like I used to always say, like, things are written about because they, like, just because you don't believe in something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Like, things have been written, right? Like, somebody.
Yes.
So the original idea for like some of the stuff I wrote, early stuff for Ancient Ones, always like people have witnessed these things, and that's why I like the story of, like, I think it's the Mayans have the dude in the rocket ship, where it looks like he's,
Oh yeah.
it's like a motif, like a motif built into the stones, and it looks like there's a guy laying in a chair on his back with levers, and there's flames coming out from, and it looks like a legit rocket ship. And so
Wow.
That thing funded many an Ancient Aliens.
Oh yeah, Ancient Aliens
Show on
is like
History Channel.
on the History Channel,
Because
right?
I know the one you're talking of. Yeah.
But my point is, like, all these stories written about that. But then the theory is like aliens have been visiting us forever
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
influencing, like, because when you look at some of those structures and some of the societies and stuff, they're like, how do they come to know all this stuff, right? And
Yes.
and some of it sounds crazy, but I like to believe that it could be true. You know, I'll talk about that kind of stuff forever. And I remember I looked that stuff up back in the day because my cousins are always feeding me all this information. You know, 'cause they're all engineers and crazy. But I remember like looking that up, thinking that does look like, and it's cool because it's like, what if aliens came down? You know, anytime you want to show up again, guys, you know, like take your
I always
home
think
book.
of the alien ex machina that I imagine in my head, where they show up and they're like, y'all decided to capitalism instead of take care of this planet that we all
Exactly.
super duper like. Can
Look,
we?
we set this up the easiest way possible for you assholes. You know?
Yeah.
If I remember right, I think that's the basis for Wayne Barlow's book, his Alien Expedition book.
Probably.
I believe it
don't
is because it's like the whole the main story is like they're going to a different planet to observe it and also like talk about like I think colonization, that kind of thing. But it
Yes.
opens with this intro thing where the author of the book is recounting like his granddad telling him about like all these animals that used to live on Earth that are long extinct, like megafauna of all kinds, like zebras and horses and all that kind of stuff. And he like there's a passing thing where it's like he mentions like he's like, honestly, if the aliens didn't come, we'd be fucked because they came and they looked at us and like, fix your shit.
Yeah.
And took it away from us. And I think if I remember right, they're coming like they're just now handing jurisdiction of Earth back over into humans' hands after like I think a century or two of like trying to fix it and getting it to be away from like the toxic hellhole we turned it into, kind of
That would be
thing.
great. I mean, that'd be great if aliens just showed up and were like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, what have you guys done?
What was the name of this again?
It's Wayne Barlow's Alien Expedition. I think it's oh shit, it's in the other room. It's Alien Expedition. It's I think there's a subtitle in it that says something about like Darwin 4 or Darwin 6, I believe.
You can drop it in our group chat for Regina later.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
it's
talk about a cool cover. This creature, whatever this creature is.
oh yes, I think it's called the Dagger Teeth or something like that, or Dagger Limb.
All right.
It's like an arboreal predator on this planet that they're exploring.
Regina, you should also add Voyage to Yesteryear on your list. I've talked about it a bunch of times. Who wrote that? Oh, James P. Hogan. And it's an old sci-fi book. 1982 by the looks of it. This must be a reprint. But the basic idea was, Andrew, I've mentioned this to you before. It's basically Earth is dying as because we fucked it up, and there's three main superpowers, and they were like, okay, they find this other planet, and they're like, okay, we got to get to that planet and repopulate over there. But the technology doesn't exist. Yeah, so the technology doesn't exist at the time, so they build a ship that basically is full of no humans, just embryos. And I mean human embryos, but no like humans taking care of it. They're all robots. But they send the ship out. It takes whatever 100 years to get to this planet or something. I forget what it was. But 20 years before it's set to arrive in that planet, they start birthing the eggs and growing the humans or something. Or it's 40 years before, because something like that, because they have to be old enough to study. They raise the kids on the ship. They teach them and stuff. So by the time they land, I think they're in their like 20s or 30s. I forget the age bracket. But by the time they've arrived at this fresh planet, Earth has designed faster ships, and they started the process of moving everybody from Earth to this planet too. So every 20 years they get a message from Earth saying we're on our way. Then every 15 years, every 10 years, the closer they're getting, the shorter the signals are. But Earth is coming with governments, rules, laws, politics.
Right.
Whereas this planet is a utopia. And so they're like, yeah, we don't need any of that. Feel free to stop by, but we don't want any of that.
Yeah.
And then Earth shows up like, we're the ones who sent you here. We're your bosses. And they're like, where the fuck you guys been for 100 years or whatever, right?
Right.
So it's a interesting story because when Earth shows up, it's like, how are these two groups? Because Utopia, nobody's like, I'm in charge of you. Everybody just does what it takes to make everything work.
Yes.
Which, it breaks me to think like that's how we could be living, but people are assholes. So
yes.
it's-
Unfortunately for us. I will have to check this out because I think about this all the time. The alien ex machina of it all, and like what that would even
I
be
mean, that's like what is it? Call it three body problem.
body problem. Yeah,
Have you read that?
long time ago.
So I started. I started reading the first book. I had to reread it because it was like, whoa, yeah, whoa. My cousin was like, it's based on dark forest theory, and then I went down this rabbit hole on dark forest theory, and the show was actually really good. Felt a little rushed, but I like the. It's a cool concept, and
Yes.
I really hope if another civ somewhere off planet shows up here, they don't show up to just eradicate us and take our resources, right?
I don't know. I feel like, and maybe this is just really Pollyanna of me, but I like to think that the urge to colonize is a uniquely human attribute.
I think
And I like to
I agree with you.
believe that the other civilizations that could be out there maybe don't have that same drive to dominate and colonize and pummel into submission that we seem to have. Obviously, it's adaptive in some way, or it's had to be. It's why it's still around. But have you ever read Hyperion? Hyperion Cantos?
Oh,
No.
I've seen them. I've never read it. I heard it's
Okay.
really good. I'll write it down again.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, I mean,
You
I'd
know,
like to believe that, the other civs look at us like, these guys
well, there may be something to that because, like, I'm thinking about it now. It's like, so we have the weird ability of, like, recognizing uncanny valley, right? And as far as we're aware, like, we're the only animal that's capable of that thing, even like amongst like primates and all that. Like other primates are kind of like, whatever. That's another one or whatever, or something like that. Um, and you have, like, I think if I remember right, like elephants and dolphins do recognize like their own reflection and stuff, but they don't ever like kind of look at like a robot or something and be like, oh, that's an other. Like that has to be a big thing. I think that, and also the drive for like having to colonize and spread as much as possible. I think both that derives from the fact like when we were coming up as a species, there were a lot of other hominid species around that were just this close, but different enough that you're like, no, it can't be you. It has to be us.
are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my kid once asked me if animals talk to each other, and I was like,
They do.
I'm
Yeah,
like, how do you
they
think they
do.
get along? Like, if they didn't?
So there's I can recommend you another book, but it is much more academic
Sure.
along my, extracurricular nonfiction reading. It's called The Spell of the Sensuous by David Abram, I believe is his name. And it is about linguistics and also, humanity and how we can or can't communicate across species, what communication even is as a tool, how we speak, and the evolution of written language and how that's changed our brains and our perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Because of your interest in the Egyptian mythology, you might find interesting how he talks about the evolution of pictographic languages versus the evolution of like Abrahamic languages, right? And the emergence of the alphabet and like what that did as a technology and all of these things. And I think about this constantly because we're in a digital age and talking to you over some tubes
Yep.
in this magic box. And our tubes are based on the alphabet. But those tubes could have been based on Mandarin or
Yep.
maybe another pictographic language. And how might that have changed our brains and the evolution of our communication as English-speaking people if our internet was based in a non-Roman alphabet.
Yeah.
Because other countries, other uh, people speaking different languages can communicate over the tubes, right, in their native languages, but everything has been programmed with
To
our
English.
Roman
Yeah.
system. And how interesting that
Yeah,
that's the
with
way it
Western
happened, and
bias.
like what would be different if it wasn't? I don't know. But Spell of the Sensuous, very
wrote it down.
more
I'll look it up.
academic, philosophical kind of thing, but worth it if you're thinking about these questions of communication and
Yeah, like, why do demons only speak in Latin? Is that true? Maybe. I'd imagine demons speak multiple languages. And like,
I think of it like if you met like a polyglot, right? Maybe they would be more charmed by you if you spoke to them in their native language, even if you maybe butchered it a little bit. They could understand you if you spoke a common language,
Sure.
maybe. But maybe you get a little extra points if you tried to do it in your ancient Aramaic. I don't know.
one
Depends
more
on the
roller
demon, I
coaster ride.
suppose.
That would depend. I was going to mention when you were talking about the the language spell of the sensuous.
Yes.
There's one more book I can mention real quick, which was it's old, and I read it when I was in high school. It's called Extraterrestrial Civilizations. It's by Isaac Asimov. It's not sci-fi. It's nonfiction. It's not science fiction.
Love
Fantasy.
Asimov though.
Yeah, so it's.
I think I know this one.
It's basically he's basically writing a book on saying, why do you not think other civilizations exist outside of Earth? And he goes down to break down, like, he starts by simple things like you say the cheetah is the fastest land animal because you've seen a cheetah. Like, what if there's something faster? You haven't seen it. You say that a whale is the largest sea animal because you've seen a whale, but we haven't gone down to the deep, deep dark of the ocean because we can't. What if there's something bigger down? And then
I mean, the aliens are down there now, right?
Yeah, what do they call those? They don't call those UFOs. They call them
UAPs.
UAPs. Is that right? Like, I mean, what's the abyss is based on that concept, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, what if they are down there and they're just like these? I feel like aliens watching us right now. I was like, these incompetent fucking
these
losers,
warrior apes, these violent apes, had to go and make all these. What is this again? Plastic.
Yeah, like someone's sitting there going, "Who gave them the tech for nuclear stuff? Like, what the hell's going on here?" You know, like Bill.
Stop messing with the warrior apes. They're ruining our vacation home.
I just feel like I'm waiting for them to just rise up and just be like, "All right, we've seen enough. This is too far." You know, like
one of my favorite sci-fi short stories is shit, what's it called? They're Made of Meat. Have you heard of that one, Regina?
No, I don't think so.
So it's basically like it's aliens like are on exploratory missions of contact and all that, and one of them says like, "Hey, I found a planet, and I don't know how to tell you this, but they're made of meat." And the alien's like, "What?" The other alien's like, "What do you mean? Oh, do you mean like they're like these people where they're like augmented? Like they're used to be meat, but they're augmented now and they're like robotic?" And he's like, No. They're all meat that think. And somehow they've made contact with us." And it's like just these two aliens like having back and forth, be like, "Oh my god, what do we like?
It's kind of like the
What the
script tape
fuck is
letters
this?
for
Like, what do we
aliens.
do with this information of like thinking meat contacting us?"
I'm gonna read this.
The when I was reading the three body problem, is that what it's called? The thing I liked about it is there is an in at NASA or at science, there's actually a signal that they have sent out to space, right? It hit what they consider to be the edge of the galaxy and came back. It whatever took 10 years and then came back.
Are you talking about the Voyager probe or different?
It's not a probe, it's a radio signal they shot out into space, and I think the last time they sent it out it took like 15 years to come back or something. And I don't know, I haven't researched it as recently, so I don't know if it ever came back or it kept going. But the idea was it took longer each time, which basically was suggesting
expanding.
our galaxy is expanding. So I always like that, and I always like talking to I was talking to a bunch of my cousins, younger cousins last week, and I was trying to explain to them how, in their heads they're like the sun is here, and we just rotate around it. And I'm like, right, that is rotating around something else, and we're moving. And they were
Yep.
like,
Yes.
what? And I'm like, the sun is a star that's moving, and it's taking us all with it, including the
Yep.
Milky Way. And whatever, it all moves, it all keeps going, and it wrote in a giant galaxy of galaxies. And they were like, you could just see their like baby brains just like can't fathom that thought. I'm like, it's not still. I'm like, nothing can stand still. I'm like, if the Earth stopped rotating for even half a second, we'd all squish
Yep,
or
that's
fly
it.
off into space.
Mhm.
Be
That's
done
how
for.
dangerous we're living on a very volatile rock. Like, so I like talking about things like this, which I feel like we can do this forever. We should move it along unless you guys want to keep going. We're about an hour and 30 minutes in. So, but we should do a whole episode of like, I think sci-fi talk is, I like the idea that, I've got friends who don't believe in things like that. They're like, aliens can't exist. I'm like, are you seriously saying, based on all the galaxies you've seen, like, you're gonna
I
seriously
was gonna
sit
say
here?
just number alone, like just
Yeah,
the math alone on that is like, yeah, the
definitely.
odds are
It's
not in
like,
your favor in that.
Yeah, you look like an idiot, is what I want to say. But I'm just like, okay, man. I don't really try to argue with people like that because I'm not going to convince you otherwise, right? Like
yeah,
you've seen the same stuff I've seen, you've read the same stuff I've read, and you still believe that what you're seeing in the world right now is the most intelligent thing that exists. Highly unlikely. Um, but I definitely would not want to go to the core of the earth and find a giant gorilla or a lizard for that matter. So, um, but like, if we want to, we can move ahead. We can move ahead to the last part of the show because I think if we
okay.
kept you for a minute here. Um, did you have a chance to find something cool or unique or interesting you want
I
to
do
talk
have
about?
something cool. I'm going to show you something cool. It's something that I worked on, so it's relevant. We're
Ooh,
relevant. We're talking about relevant things. Okay. So I worked on this book. Oh my gosh. I started working on it over a year ago. It's called Water Moon. Looks like
yeah.
this.
Oh, I
It's
like
really
the look
beautiful.
of that.
And Water Moon is about a pawn shop where you pawn your regrets.
Oh,
And so
sweet.
you go to a ramen shop, and if you have no regrets, you get your ramen. But if you are selected by this pawn shop because you have a regret worth pawning, you will be transported to this pawn shop. The pawnbroker will pour you a cup of tea, explain the whole situation, and then your regret will appear on the table in front of you. Maybe you were going to take a bus to go meet your lover, but instead you decided to stay home and take care of your family. So maybe bus tickets appear on the table, right? What
Sure.
have you. And so the story follows the pawnbroker's daughter who's taken over the shop. She awakes to chaos. A man walks in, presumably to pawn a regret, and kind of gets embroiled in what's happening and goes along with her on this magical journey. It has a very like Studio Ghibli kind of
That
vibe
sounds
to
fun.
it.
Mm.
Yeah.
But so the jacket um, also includes this
Oh, wow.
That's
piece of
cool.
art on the reverse. And these are the two main characters, the lovers in this story. And if you look at the end papers, it'll show you how you could transform your book jacket into a
Oh,
boat.
sweet.
Oh,
So
that's
you could
great.
bring the lovers together in their
Oh,
boat, but you have to
nice.
let go of your dust jacket in
Mm-hmm.
order to bring the lovers together. So whether you regret trying to make your book jacket into a boat or you regret not trying to turn your book jacket into a boat, still gotcha.
That's clever.
So
That is wonderful. I love that.
that is Water Moon. The illustration was done by very talented, incredible illustrator Haley Maurice. She was a dream to work with. Um, so creative and wonderful. And I had the idea for the origami, and I commissioned this lovely gentleman Nick of nickorigami.com, one of our like, PRH authors who makes origami layouts
That's
and stuff.
cool,
I
man.
commissioned him to like make this origami layout so that I
So
could
they all
have the
perfectly come
instructions
together.
for like how
Yeah.
That's
to
great. Yeah.
put it all together. And then yeah. And now it's on sale. You go buy it at your local bookstore wherever you like to buy your books. And yeah, it has like a nice Studio Ghibli kind of escapist, grounded yet not grounded magical reality, right? Everything from like traveling through night markets in the clouds to ending up in the Large Hadron Collider, like it has it
That's
all.
cool.
So that's my
I'll have
cool
to
thing.
see if my local
I
has
like
that.
that. That's a well-designed book. I love the look of that.
Thank you. I'll never top it. Don't ask me to. I don't know how.
You're gonna have to have them burn the dust jacket into something. You know, like those magicians where they burn it and like a flower comes out.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah.
Like, good luck with that. You
I'm
could.
working on the next book by this author now, and it's still going to be cool. It's not going to transform into anything necessarily, but it's still going to be pretty cool.
I mean, you could do another origami book. That is a vibe I haven't seen on any books ever.
Okay, so the reason why the origami works for this is because they go to see a character in the story who folds time like origami. Speaking of space and time and moving
Oh.
through the fabric of reality, so they fold to time like origami and they change a choice that happened so that they can then further proceed along their goal. And so that's where I got the idea for this. I was like, oh, well, if we're folding time like origami, what if we could bring you together like origami?
She's in her weekly meeting, and you're like, I got this idea for an origami boat.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
I think
But I
that's
can
unique.
only
That's
do it for
unique.
this because it conceptually it works. If I try to do
Right,
it on
right.
something else, it would feel like shoehorned in there, and then that's
Yeah,
not cool anymore.
I get it.
I'd really only do that with an origami book.
Other
Like
than
an
that,
instruction manual book. Yeah, it's like, hey, here's how you make origami. Also, you can practice with the dust jacket.
it's cool
Exactly.
because
That's pretty much it.
you
It's
gotta do
Water
it a
Moon and
specific
that.
way.
Those are the
Yes,
two
and
instances.
origami instruction manuals. That's it. That's all you get.
That's cool, man. I mean, that's unique. So, um, I like it. I actually, before I show my thing, I had a question for you. You were saying kids books, and then you said middle grade and young adult. Like, what's considered middle grade? Like, because like my cousins read Percy Jackson, for example,
Mhm.
and I thought that would be in the young adult category. But
Like
is that more
borderline.
middle grade then?
It's like, yeah, it's more, I would classify it as middle grade. Later in the series, it becomes kind of more YA. Okay, think of it this way. With middle grade, children are presented with some kind of problem.
Mhm.
And usually, with or without help, they solve it together. Right? That's generally like a middle grade kind of structure. The characters are going to be aged between like 9 and the eldest is going to be like 13, 14, right? Like that's your middle grade age, right? Like think middle school, right? When you come to young adult, right? Where in middle grade you have a very straightforward facing a problem, solving the problem. In young adult, not always, but often it's some sort of like coming of age, right? Crossing of a threshold,
Mm-hmm.
coming to who you are. Like there will still be meeting of problems and the characters solving it, right? It tends to lean more around this idea of like coming of age, like usually some sort of part of it, whether it's like a first romance or figuring out something about your identity or whatever it
Got
may
it.
be, right?
Sure.
And then once you end up in adult, right, your characters know who they are. And then they meet the problems and then they solve them or they don't solve them, right, depending on the genre of the book.
Mhm.
And then picture books is actually like the most high-handed genre, I think, in children's literature because it can be anything from like very, very simple, like just exploring colors, very, a simple yet kind of complex topic, right? Like just color, to like really like big ideas, but encapsulated in a way that's like very
Mhm.
simple, but like a big idea couched in a very simple execution, or it could be really straightforward, like this is like a folk tale or a mythology or something like that, told for children with lots of pictures. That's like the picture book world. So it can really span the gamut.
Interesting. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I was like, I've never heard the term middle grade. Where does that land?
Yeah, middle grade is like a very unique, and it has a look too, a visual, an illustration look as well. Like illustration on middle grade tends to be very representative. Like if it's a story about 3 kids, you're going to see those 3 kids. Like it tends to be a little bit more straightforward, right? In its
Right.
visual language. YA becomes slightly more conceptual, right? And then in adult, it can be all over the place, just like in picture book. It could be really conceptual, very simple, very spare, or it could be very straightforward, or, kind of depends on the project. The picture books, right, are bought by adults for children. Middle grade books are often, but not always, picked out by children and bought by adults. And young adult books are bought by 30-something-year-old women. Famously, like they've done studies and stuff. I mean, I'm sure teenagers read them too, but
that's funny.
I'm pretty sure my wife right now is reading a young adult horror book in her list right now, I believe. So that tracks.
I mean, I
don't
mentioned
knock
Percy.
them until you tried them. Some of them are really trendy.
Yeah, no, I know. Like some of the ones she's told me about, like sound really interesting. I just haven't gotten around to it because I'm doing a Discworld read right now, getting through those books.
Discworld.
That's a good one.
I never read them in that age bracket that most people pick them up, right?
Sure.
And so in the past like 2-3 years, I started like slowly working through them, reading them just to finally be like, what is this about? Because like I like some of the other Terry Pratchett stuff I've read. I just never, for some reason, like his series just totally missed me when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Granny Weatherwax. Speaking of witches, Granny Weatherwax is one of my favorites.
She is a delightful character. Yes, I love that character a lot. I think I've read 2 or maybe 3 books with her in it yet. Weird Sisters, whatever the first introductory one is, and then there was a third one, but I can't remember it.
There are so many books in that series.
Yeah, it is.
I've never read
Weird Sisters,
Discworld.
and there's another one. They're fun. They're like.
I'll add it to my list.
Have you read other Terry Pratchett books before?
I read Bad Omens. Is that
Good Omens?
Or Good Omens? I mean, unfortunately, there's a not so cool author on there, but Pratchett was fine. You know what? Whatever. I know. I'm in that weird boat of like, still, I can't hate on the Neil Gaiman books. You know what I mean? Like,
we have been separating art from the artist for a long time.
Yeah. And I know some people will be like, fuck you for saying that, whatever. And I'm just like, I still think like, the books are great. The guy seems not so cool. You still listen to music by people that turn out to be jackasses,
Yes.
What's the difference,
Try not to send my money in their direction if I can.
Yeah, I'm not going out there buying. I'm not going to buy his next book or whatever, right? But like,
it's like
Good
my
Omens
main
or
form
Bad,
of
Bad Omens.
protest,
Good Omens I think Good Omens is great. There's another book I read by Pratchett. Can't remember. When you said Discworld, though, it reminded me that I just finished reading Ringworld by Larry Niven. Have you ever read Ringworld?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And dude, I got friends who did like who had to convince that the concept for Halo came from the Ringworld, the game Halo. I'm like, they're on a giant fucking Discworld.
They're on a ring, yeah.
Yeah, it's a ring that rotates.
It really is.
Man. I'm like, you seriously believe that was 100% original idea? You're crazy. So, whatever.
Love it.
But yeah, I guess I'll add Discworld to my. I mentioned Percy Jackson because one of my cousins is reading it, and they asked me to read it with them. I started reading the first book, and I'm like, I can't get through this, man. Like,
yeah,
it's a hard. I feel like it's gonna get better. Like maybe the writing gets better, it's very much written like someone learning how to write, which is not a bad thing for that age bracket. But I'm so used to reading like better books. Like I don't know how to say it. Like I'm just like this is just. I'm cooking. I'm trying my best to get through it for my cousin, but at the same time, I'm like, I love Greek mythology, so that's one of the reasons that I was like, sure, I'll give this a whirl. It's fine, but it's just the show's better. Fortunately, for the first time,
My daughter likes the show as well.
I was telling Andrew about to see it last week. That show, like Disney's got Star Wars movies and Marvel movies, and the Percy Jackson series is the number one thing on there. So that should tell you something. So the thing I don't know if I showed this before. About last year's San Diego Comic-Con, I found this there. I've been trying to, maybe I found it before, but I've always been interested in like tarot and oracle decks, but I don't know jack shit about how to work them.
We can talk. We'll talk.
Cool. Yeah, because I found, so when I was at San Diego, I found a D&D tarot set.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we publish it. The D&D one.
Clarkson Potter Publishers and Print a Penguin.
Yeah, that's Random House.
Yeah. There you go. So, for starters, I saw this and I thought, okay, here's the thing. I mentioned it to like Tawny and a couple other people, and they were like, everyone's got their recommendation on which tarot deck I should start with. None of them seem like you got to really catch my interest if I'm going to spend some money on it, right?
Sure.
This is cool. Like I'll show like one or two cards really quick, but I think the art's amazing.
I gotta make a plug for the illustrator of the the most famous tarot deck, the Rider-Waite Smith deck. Pamela Coleman Smith is the illustrator of the most recognizable tarot deck. She was also an occultist. Rider and Waite were like the people who commissioned the deck, and they were both involved with like the Order of the Golden Dawn, and they were occultists in their own right, but so was she. And it's really her visual communication as an illustrator that led to this deck being the most like popular, most recognizable, most enduring tarot.
For that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a lot of cool, like this one, so this artist's got some cool visual styles, which I really liked.
Definitely.
And I like D&D, so it just like went hand. Like here's Wheel of Fortune's got a red dragon,
Nice.
And I was like, cool, I'm in. But then I was like, I brought this with the IX actually because I don't know if you met Shanna McQueen. They and Tawny were both like, we'll sit down and show you how to do some of this. But as life is at IX, we all got busy. So, and then I just forgot about him till today when I was just like, I need something to talk about. And now I probably should go back to researching it. But yeah, I can bother you about this later. I do think it's like oracle decks are very interesting to me because I feel like these are very open-ended.
Yes.
Where I feel like the tarot decks a little more specific.
Structured.
Yeah, structured is a better word for it.
Yeah.
Like Order of the Golden Dawn was an occult group, a not-so-secret society. Speaking of your secret societies, a not-so-secret secret society.
I tell the artists in my group not to talk about it, but I'm over here talking about it on the show. But I haven't named it for a reason because there are artists in my group that would prefer to remain like it's set up for those artists. Really, it's a secret group.
Right.
Deal with it.
Well, this oracle deck, the tarot was commissioned by people who had these, occult interests, and so there is a structure, just like I mentioned with like working with demons, right? It's high ceremonial magic. The Order of the Golden Dawn is like a ceremonial magic, like a cult group, right? And very, very formalized. And so that is, the tarot is based on this ancient Italian Iraci game, right? And this deck was commissioned to be like a formalized, like Order of the Golden Dawn inspired
I like that name
version of this deck. And there are all of these like really layered symbols and journey, like a hero's journey embedded into it, and like why the suits are what they are and what they represent, and why the major arcana, why the minor arcana. There are answers to all of these questions, but that's why tarot is like a very regimented system, right? It's a very specific thing. And then oracle decks is like, we are going to use the chaos of the universe.
Yeah.
have you receive an image and then have that speak to you about whatever it is that you're querying. So it's a little bit more like chaos magic, right? Is Oracle deck, and like tarot deck is like ceremonial magic.
Yeah, chaos magic is just can go good or bad. So I play D&D. I know what's up. What do you got, Andrew? I know you and I just did an interview yesterday too. So
Yeah. Going off of Regina's share, I also made a book. It's not as good.
nice.
I like to occasionally I change up shit every once in a while. I got tired of how I was making thumbnails for stuff, so I just made a dummy book, like a pamphlet book of just grid system,
I love
just to make
it.
it real easy. Yeah, so that way I
Perfect.
can easily, but yeah,
Awesome.
and that way it's set to like basically a 2:3 ratio for everything, and I can always divide it up into smaller things if I want to change the ratio or anything like that. So yeah, I just
I love
started doing
that.
that to have just a different way to have thumbnails and have them be a little more structured. Because when I do
Okay,
them in my
composition and negative space. I see you.
yeah, well, so usually when I do like my moleskin notebooks for thumbnails and stuff, like I'll draw them out, but then it's like aspect ratios are all over the place.
Oh yes,
They're not consistent.
I have like a non-lined notebook that I use when I'm reading a manuscript for work, and I'm like taking notes, and I'll do thumbnails and stuff too, like what it is that I'm trying
Yeah.
to work out. And it is always a lopsided rectangle with like something that is unintelligible to anybody but me. I feel
Yeah.
like that's really nice because then you're like, okay, I kind of understand what our grid proportions are.
Yeah, it's kind of right there. So like years ago, I had two pieces of like were they plexiglass or just acrylic? I think they were just clear acrylic. I was working with a friend of ours. Excuse me, one second. Um, and we had these little like clear acrylic. I don't know how else to call them, like templates, like laser cut. One was like 2:3 ratio, and the other was like 4:3, and they had like a grid system on it. And the idea that we originally had for that was you'd like throw them in your wallet because they're about credit card size. You could
Okay.
throw them in your wallet, and then you could say use them in like a book like that. You can be like, oh, I need like the ratio. I need like that size, that ratio, whatever. You just slap it down, and you just trace around it. Then you go. Um, the downside of it was it's loose, so you can lose them because
Yeah,
they are
that's
like
it. Yeah.
yeah, because they're slightly smaller than like a credit card. They're like kind of like somewhere between a credit card and a business card. And then because of the nature of acrylic, it was like I think the thinnest you can get is 1/16 of an inch, maybe, or maybe like a little bit thicker. But even that is like that's thicker than any
Yeah.
credit card you have in your wallet or anything like that. So it's just like one of those things. Is like, okay, this is kind of the neat idea, but I used it like 2 or 3 times, then I was like, it's like too much of a hassle. So I'm
Mm.
hoping like this is a slightly more elegant solution. Um, I think I already have notated like on version 2, if I get through this and I want to make another one, I've demarcated on the next version to have like the thirds listed out on the sides, like just
Mm.
little notches just showing where it is. And then this is like slightly smaller just so it's not as much real estate on it. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
I made this like I don't know, a week ago or whatever, and I've just been starting to use it here and there.
It's a cool idea.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Andrew likes to tinker, which I think is great.
I am a huge time tinkerer.
Yeah. Whereas
That's
like
good.
I need
Every
more
party
time to
needs a
tinker.
tinkerer. Oh my
Yes, like yeah, the
gosh.
drafting
Artificer
table.
class
Oh,
rolling
they,
in.
weirdly enough, like even though you've played Artificer,
I
Alan,
play an artificer, you don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I should because like drafting table I've made,
every
added some
campaign
linear
every
actuators
campaign
to it
we're in, we just
recently.
build our characters to work side by side. Somehow we just end up working together. But he
I
always
can
has
only
like
bard. I only know how to bard.
so
That's it.
I fake played a bard in one campaign, but I was a rogue assassin essentially, and when
Oh, you were impersonating a bard?
So this this is where the first time I learned that I should never dual class. I've never played with a dual class,
Oh, like a
and
multi-class.
yeah,
Yeah,
multi-class,
they're
and I went
hard.
bard first, and then I realized I should have just gone rogue straight from the jump. But it was,
Mhm.
because like everyone's one level ahead of me right now. But what's great is when people figured out, I started stabbing people, and they're like, "Aren't you a bard?" Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Not today,"
Once you get that sneak attack dice
Yeah,
going, that's it. Your cover's blown.
like I saw all of them just had that straight look of panic on their faces, like, "Fuck is happening over here?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, guys, I have a story to tell you," But it was cool, and then so like everything I built after that, like I just went straight. Like in the campaign Andrew and I were in, I built straight Artificer, which is really fucking hard to play. So I'm like, I don't know if I would like
Yeah,
this
I
class
remember
yet.
you and your blunderbuss cannon
I was
Yeah,
gonna
kind of
say, did you
thing.
have
That
a
was
blunderbuss?
yeah. So the one of the I think I sent you one of my pieces. It's the fairy. She's a cursed
Uh-huh.
fae essentially, and she's got a cursed blunderbuss. So every time if my attack roll counts, I roll the d20 again, and 20 different things can fire out of it. So it could be like a screaming cat,
Perfect.
like so like you don't know what's
Oh,
coming out of it.
I love items like that where you
It's,
roll a
it's
dice and you get to choose from the chart what happens.
Yeah,
it
so
was
the DM and
essentially
I worked on
wild
a
magic
chart.
in a gun.
Yeah, it's in a
Yeah.
gun. And then I was a cursed face, so when my curse was I was a were something. So whenever I transformed, we rolled dice and I could be like I might be a were rat, I might be so last time I transformed was a flying werewolf. So everyone's like, "Oh yeah." And he's a blob, so I carry him around
It was
sometimes in a
essentially the thing.
yeah, I carry him around in a
Like
jar
John
sometimes that I
Carpenter's The Thing,
throw.
but as
Yes,
an
yes.
assassin.
It was a Spelljammer
Because
campaign, so it's cool.
well, yeah, Spelljammer. So
Well,
what is it? It was
I was
the
gonna say
plasmoid.
Plasma, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
the thing is an assassin, kind of.
yeah, so Andrew would like get in this
Well,
jar and we'd throw him at things,
That's pretty cool.
you know.
I always liked so going back to the short story, other sci-fi, there's another short story that is written from the perspective of the thing.
What?
And it's essentially, it's not really an assassin. It's trying to commune with other species, and it sees the fact that like we're all individuals as it's an affront to God and nature. And it's like, why are these beings this way? The last line is chilling because it's talking about like, oh, like I've been disparate for so long throughout this whole thing. They keep hunting me or whatever, and like I just like if I bring union to them, if it's basically saying like we'll all get along. Like finally they'll understand the work if I can bring them into my fold.
Right.
And basically ends it with like I think the word is like he's like the word is like the creature's like I'll I'll rape them if I have to, or like it was that kind of like wording where it's like I'll make them see it my way if I need to,
Yes.
kind of deal. And it's like,
Mm,
woo, ooh,
villainous. Yes.
is like yeah, really like deeply like, oh, that's a hell of a way to end that short story. But yeah, no, I always like that weird take where it's like, oh, this isn't because I've also heard where it's like, oh, it's just like creature reacting, whatever. It's not necessarily like because then it's like, oh, it's like was the thing that crash landed on the planet was it actually piloting the ship or was it like a stowaway that got out or something?
Right.
Or like you said, like was it like like somewhat like a creature just killing to survive kind of deal? And it's like that story where it's like poses it more like it's trying to get out, but at the same time it's looking at this thing and be like, this isn't right. Why are they all separate? I'm going to join them together. That's the right thing to do. And it's like, oh no, don't like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just like the idea of bathing the planet in white light. You know what else
Yeah.
bathes the planet in white light?
Yeah.
Nuclear weapons.
It's the only way to
Maybe
be
we
sure.
don't want to do that.
We don't want to do that.
It's the
Maybe
only way to be sure.
That's the only way to reset. Send another asteroid our way. I was reading that article about how Jupiter is flinging asteroids at us now, and I'm like, no one should be
what did
disappointed
we
by
do to
this.
anger Jupiter?
What haven't we done to anger Jupiter?
Honestly, actually, I realized the error of my ways the second I opened my mouth.
Jupiter's like, fuck this shit. All right, we're way over time now.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
we should call it because sometimes we have technical difficulties after 2 hours. But
Regina, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, it's
Thank
been
you so
actually really
much for
wonderful.
having me.
This,
This was
you know, it's a
such a
good interview when it
blast.
goes this long, so it's cool.
Mhm.
Um,
You know, it's me. I cannot stop gabbing.
I'm telling you, man, get back. We'll do a whole episode on some sci-fi stuff and get you back on
I'm down.
here.
Yeah.
So, is there a specific place you want us to point people to find more information about you other than just your website?
You can go to my website. I'm at Regina Flath on all the socials. I'm not on all of them, but the ones that I'm on, that's where I'm at.
Cool.
I like that.
That's the way I should be. That's the way I should say it now.
That's yeah, that should be the way you put it.
Because like I'm, well, Andrew, tell us where you are.
asidesart.com. You can sign up for a newsletter or the Patreon from there. I'm around on socials. I hardly post. Unless you want to hear me bitch about how I feel like the Jurassic World movies undercut their thesis through the use of their editing and cinematography. In which case, you can easily find me on socials for that.
Which is way better of a conversation to have with them than his platypus conversation. So
okay, no.
Well, that was a one-off thing, but also
that went on forever.
Also, I will also talk about like how I feel the Planet of the Apes franchise is
there's a
one
whole
of the
episode
strongest movie franchises.
Yeah.
Too.
Who were we talking about? I forget.
We were talking with. I bombarded Howard Lyon with that, unfortunately.
Oh, Howard Lyon. Yeah.
Yeah, him initially. And
well, we started talking about anime, and we didn't realize how much Howard likes anime. And then
I did not know that.
And then we went into somehow we ended up on a Planet of the Apes conversation.
It was something like that. Yeah, and then oh shit, who's the second person? Tyler.
Jacobson.
Was the second. Yeah, Tyler Jacobson.
Yeah.
And he was more receptive to it because once I laid it out to him, he was like, "Oh, I hadn't thought about it like that, but I'm gonna have to watch them now." And I was like, and I said, like, yeah, like it's not just the newest ones; it's all of them. Like,
all of them. Yeah.
You take it all at a stride. You got like one miss.
Don't do it, man. We're not getting
2 or 3 OKs, and the rest are pretty.
We're not getting into it right now. We're way over. All my stuff is under AllenPanakal art except TikTok, as everyone knows. Someone's squatting on my name there. But I mainly tend to post on Bluesky these days because fuck Twitter or whatever you want to call it. And I definitely don't like Facebook anymore. On TikTok, I thought I'd get that name back when it went down for 8 hours, but back up, man. Dude, still
You're gonna like swoop in.
I thought I could swoop in and just take the name, but I've gone as far as talking to TikTok securities about it, and they want proof that I am who I say I am. I'm like, I'm the only one posting under this name, bro. But whatever. I'm not a huge fan of social media, so if you just go to my website, sign up for my mailing list. That's the best, easiest way to get all my information from me. You can post once a month for that. Regina, again, thanks for being on, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
And I've got like a huge list of books to look up later. I'll send you some stuff.
Some books, some movies, some witches. We're gonna get into it. I
definitely want to get back on and talk about witches. Let me take us offline real quick so this thing stops recording. Thanks for everyone who's watching. Appreciate all your support.